If you want to deploy dozens or even thousands of AI agents across your business without losing control, there's really only one way to do it. Because without the right system in place, you'll have agents making decisions across your organization that nobody's watching, nobody's approving, and no one can explain. I spent the last few years helping enterprises plan and run their largest AI initiatives. Today, I'm going to show you the planning setup that keeps you in full control and lets you move faster no matter how many agents you're running. Let's get into it. The biggest fear with AI agents is that one of them goes rogue, does something crazy, something damaging, something it never should have done on its own. And yes, that happens. But in most organizations I've worked with, something else goes wrong first. It's more common, compounds faster, and it's almost always overlooked. Here's how it usually plays out. You start with one or two agents. One handles refunds, for example, another handles support tickets. You can keep an eye on both without much effort, and everything seems to be working, so you add more. Within a few months, you're running 10 or 20 agents across support, finance, sales, operations. And here's where it starts to get complicated. Each one of those agents is running in its own separate instance. One connects to your CRM, another to your website. Each one has its own admin settings, its own policies, its own guardrails, its own queue of items waiting for a human to approve, investigate, or respond to. And when an agent is running perfectly, you still need to know it's succeeding. That means more dashboards, more updates, more noise. Agents work 24/7. They generate lots of activity, which means lots of notifications. And when things get noisy, you stop hearing the signal. You start tuning out, not intentionally, but gradually. The requests keep coming, you get busier, and over time, you're paying less and less attention to each individual agent. Now, add a real issue to that noise. Who handles it? One escalation might need to go to sales ops. Another might need to loop in development. A third might require finance to sign off. How do you distribute that work quickly, asynchronously, across the team, and then push the resulting rule change back to the right agent in the system without missing a step? A single escalation can get complex really fast. Now multiply that by 10 agents, 100 agents, 1,000 agents. No single person can manage hundreds of separate approval queues, different admin systems, policy sets, notification streams. Requests get buried. Agents pause waiting for a human that never responds, and eventually either stall out completely or move ahead on their own. That's how you end up with an agent issuing a refund it never should have, selecting a vendor nobody reviewed, or sending a customer a message no one approved. And we've all heard of these stories. And here's the important part. None of this happened because the AI failed. Every agent did exactly what it was built to do. You lost control because your oversight system was never designed to scale. And that's the piece almost no one plans for. Let me put it another way. Deploying AI agents without a control plane is like running an airport without a control tower. One plane, one runway, no problem. But thousands of planes in the air without coordination, you're not just overwhelmed, you're unsafe. The fix: start with a control plane. Before a single agent goes live, you need one centralized system that handles escalations, routing, exceptions, guardrail enforcement, approvals, change management, and audit trails. Not a patchwork of tools, one system. It needs to do four things really well. It needs to be contextual and actionable, not just informational. It needs to adapt as priorities shift over time. It needs to separate the critical from the informational, so noise doesn't bury the things that actually matter. And it needs organizational memory, so routing is intelligent and decisions don't have to be rebuilt from scratch every time. Here's the thing most people get wrong about a control plane. They think of it as a brake, a compliance layer, something that slows you down. It's actually the opposite. The control plane is what makes it safe to accelerate. Without it, every new agent you deploy adds risk and overhead. With it, every new agent you deploy adds capability. Because the governance is already built in, you're not choosing between speed and control. You're building the infrastructure that lets you have both. Once you have a control plane, the next step is establishing how every agent interacts with it. Before any agent makes a decision, it shouldn't. A lot of teams get this backward. They turn the agent on first and figure out the guardrails later, usually right after something goes wrong. I call the right approach governance by design. The rules get built at the same time as the agent, not after. For every agent, you define 4 things up front: what it's allowed to entirely do on its own, what it must get human approval before acting, what it does when it runs into something outside its rules, and how escalations route back through the control plane to exactly the right person at the right time. That last one matters more than most people realize. It's not enough to say a human needs to approve this. In an enterprise, the wrong human approving something is almost as bad as no human approving it. A refund exception shouldn't go to your head of engineering. A vendor decision shouldn't land in a support queue. The control plane needs to know who owns what and route accordingly. Some rules invoke complex policy frameworks, compliance, legal, risk. Some are specific to the agent's purpose. Getting the rules right matters. But here's what most people don't think about. The hard part isn't writing the rules. The hard part is remembering them 6 months later. Why was a specific guardrail put in place? What were the detailed requirements? Who was involved? Who signed off? That's institutional memory. That's exactly what you need when something goes wrong, because you can't afford a week of finger pointing in archaeology when an agent's in trouble. You need to know immediately who to call, what was decided, and what needs to change. Think of it like an airplane's flight manual. It documents every system, every failure mode, and exactly what to do and who to call when something goes wrong. The control tower doesn't have every manual memorized, doesn't need to know how every engine works, but it knows how to route to the pilot the right expert at the right time to help solve that problem immediately. Take a refund agent. On its own, it can approve a refund under $50. Low risk, no delay, handled instantly. Anything above $50 requires a human sign-off before money moves. Those approvals route to a dedicated team, clean, simple, manageable, straightforward. Now fast forward 6 months. The agent starts seeing something it wasn't designed for. A customer returning 5 items, all under $50 each on the same day. Then 200 items the next day, all still under $50. The per transaction rule never triggers, but something clearly isn't right. Is it fraud? A system error? Completely normal behavior? The agent doesn't know. But here's the real question. Can it escalate that situation efficiently to the right person? Someone who actually has the context and authority to decide. And when that person makes a call, does that process exist to update the rule, document why, get it approved, and push it back to the agent? Without a control plane, that escalation becomes a multi-day email chain across 3 departments. With one, it's a structured workflow that gets resolved and recorded. And the institutional memory of how that rule was originally designed is right there to inform the decision. That's the difference between an organization that learns from its agents and one that just reacts to them. Now, if everything I just walked through sounds like a lot to set up and keep track of across hundreds of agents, that's exactly why I built Force Equals. All of this planning and governance happens in one place. If you want to try it for free, the link's in the top of the description, but let's keep going. Good rules on every agent still aren't enough on their own. Not if each agent reports into its own separate dashboard. Strong guardrails spread across 100 different tools, just a different kind of chaos. You're back to logging into 30 systems to check things, and nobody has a complete picture. What you need is a single view where everything waiting on a human across every agent and every project is in one unified list. So you have one place to go to see everything that needs escalations. And when an agent stops and needs a sign-off, the request surfaces right there with full context already with it attached. What the agent was doing, what it recommended, why it paused. The right person reviews it, makes a decision, and the outcome is recorded automatically. But not everyone sees the same list. The system surfaces what's relevant to each person that it's escalating to. Just the work they need to act on right now, filtered by role, priority, rich context, clear actions, the ability to click a single button quickly to execute a change, efficient decisions, a record of the decisions, and the ability to collaborate right there, exactly where it's needed with the right people when more than one person's required to help make the decision. That's how you keep humans in the loop at scale. When everything an agent needs from your team flows through one place, you stay in control regardless of how many agents are running. The last piece of the control side is auditability, and you get it automatically because every system approval already passed through that single system. For every decision an agent made, you can pull up what it saw, what it recommended, who signed off and when, all of it captured without anyone manually documenting anything or pulling logs from a dozen different tools. Now, if you're in financial services, healthcare, insurance, or any regulated industry, this isn't just a nice operational feature, it's a legal requirement. Regulators and auditors don't want your word that everything was handled correctly. They want a record. And if that record is scattered across 100 tools, you either can't produce it or it takes weeks to assemble. That's a liability, and it's entirely avoidable. At some point, someone's going to ask your CFO, a regulator, an auditor. They'll want to know exactly why a specific decision was made. And if you can answer that question in seconds, you've built something that protects the business. If you can't, you've lost control, even if nothing actually went wrong. Here's where I want to spend a minute, because this is part almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most valuable piece of the whole system. Every escalation, every edge case, every rule collision your agent surface is actually a signal. It's telling you something about your business, your agent, your process, or your strategy that you didn't fully anticipate when you deployed that agent. The question is, what do you do with that signal? In most organizations, the answer is not much, frankly. Someone fixes the immediate problem, maybe updates a rule, moves on. The broader implication gets lost. What should happen is that signal feeds into a continuous improvement cycle. You capture the idea, the issue, evaluate it against your broader business priorities, figure out where it ranks against everything else your team's working on, get the right stakeholders aligned, plan the change, and hand it to your development team fully baked, with all the context they need to execute. That's not just change management, that's how your AI program compounds over time. Because here's what that cycle also answers. How do you decide which agents to build next? Most organizations approach their agent roadmap informally. Someone has an idea, a pilot gets spun up, and it may or may not connect back to strategy. But when you have a system that captures operational signals from running agents, filters them through business priorities, and turns the highest value ideas into fully planned projects, you're not just reacting anymore, you're building a pipeline. Every agent you deploy generates signals. Those signals feed the next wave of ideas. The best ideas get prioritized and planned. Developers get handed projects that are ready to build, and the impact flows back into the business and back into the cycle. That's the difference between deploying AI agents and building an AI-powered organization. So to bring it all together, a control plane that everything runs through, rules designed before agents go live with intelligent routing to the right humans, a single place where every decision gets made and recorded, and a continuous cycle that turns what your agents learn into your next wave of improvements. The governance layer isn't what slows you down. It's what makes you safe to move fast and keep moving fast as your program grows. This is exactly why I built Force Equals. One platform for the control plane, the planning, the prioritization, and the transformation cycle from the first agent you deploy to the 1,000th. No more approval requests going unread across hundreds of inboxes. No more agents acting before anyone signs off. No more spending a month explaining a single decision to an auditor. And no more guessing which agents to build next. You can try Force Equals for free. Link is the first one below the video. And if you're currently using Claude for enterprise planning, the next video is worth watching.